So now we are in the lab next door, and we're going to use this big old centrifuge and show you how to use that in just a second. Right now, that little tiny rotor in there is too small. We got to take this out. We got to go find the other one. Oh, it's down here. This guy is huge. And it weighs a ton. It's a very big machine, okay? But we need it because we got to fit our big bottles in there. This thing is called the GSA rotor, and it's a big machine. So to put this in here, you literally drop it over the spindle. Just let it sit like that. It'll hold on it to its own. And now we take our two bottles and we stick them in there. But before you do that, you got to make dang sure these things are balanced. We're only going to be spinning at 600 times G, but you got to balance them. So what you do, you go over here to the balance. We got a little balance, and we just have to put these on here and make sure they're close. In this case, they're not. So this side needs more weight. So I'm just going to take some of that buffer and take a little bit and stick it in here and kind of go from there. So when you're going to measure or weigh these things out, you got to make sure that you, when you're measuring, you don't take the top off, for example. Set this down here and then put this on the bench, okay? Because that means you're not weighing everything. You got to make sure that's on so that you know where everything's supposed to be. And you're going to have actual good buffer. I'm just going to use water. I found this thing sitting here. And all you do is you keep putting liquid in here until, let's see if you can see, watch this little scale, until it starts to go to the middle. There it goes. I'm going to give it a chance here. You don't have to go crazy. As long as it's kind of in the middle and it's staying about where it's supposed to be, I mean, that is sufficient right there. That is fine. Now we know they're balanced and we won't run the machine crazy. If you put things that are not balanced into the centrifuge, you're going to damage the centrifuge and or cause an international incident. So it can be very damaging and dangerous to do such a thing. So then you go ahead and put these in. You're going to put them in, of course, on opposite sides. I'll put that one there. Since that one's there, I'll put this one right on this side. Perfect. Now to put this thing on, you can see on here it has a little arrow saying off. Well, off is going to the right, which is opposite of normal things. It's usually righty-tighty, lefty-loosey. So what I do is I grab this thing like this. I drop it, here's the threaded piece, right down into the hole. And then I lift that piece. I lift this piece up, I kind of hold, and I take the whole rotor and I spin the rotor around. And then that automatically tightens it down.
Oakley dokley.
Then I drop that little pot, and then this is like a little locks piece. Tighten that. Oops, off. See, I did it backwards. That's off. No! You gotta go to the left to tighten. Okay. Now it's tight. Everything's good. Now we close this. We can also, the on button is down here. Right there. Okay. And we close this thing. Give it a good slam. Now, when you look up here at all the little controls, and it says on our little directions, we're going to run this thing at 600 times G for 5 minutes at 10 degrees. Okay? Well, all these dials up here are just setting all that stuff. So for example, over here is temperature. We're going to run it, it says at 10. So you flip these until it says 10 degrees. Okay? Maximum, we're going to say 22 just so nothing happens. That means if it got just past 10, the thing would shut down. So just leave it at that. That's fine. This is the current temperature, apparently. Okay. Now, the important thing is, for 5, it says how long? 5 minutes. So let's change this to 5. So there's 5 minutes. The refrigerator unit came on because it's trying to get it down to 10 degrees. So there's 5 minutes. Now, the rotor code. Down here, there's basically 2 rotors we have. An SS34 rotor, and that's rotor code 5, or a GSA rotor, and that's rotor code 10. So we're GSA, we put that to 10. Now we're all ready to go, except for the all-important RPM. So how on earth do you know what RPM correlates to 600 times G? You can't just guess, okay? What you have to do is find a book, or in our case, I've copied this off. Oops, I've copied this off. This is the GSA rotor speed table. And you can see over here it has RPM. And then here you have relative centrifugal forces. Okay, forget K factor. But these are the RCF, relative centrifugal force. We want to do maximum. See, it says maximum R for radius, average, and minimum. Okay, we want to do maximum because everything's going to be going down to the bottom. So we want it 600. So you come down here to about, well, there's 650. That's close enough. And it says that the RPM is 2,000. And these are specific for the different rotors, okay? If this wasn't a GSA rotor, we couldn't use this, right?
Piece of push.
At 2,000 RPM, so we switch this guy to 2,000, whoops, 2,000 RPM, 2000. Now we're ready to roll. Now the only other thing to worry about over here are these controls, but these aren't as important for us. This just slips back and forth. It tells you, see, what the centrifugal force is. You push that little toggle. Notice this guy is switching from speed to relative centrifugal force. That's where we're set it at, okay? So you can cheat and just hold that down and run these buttons until it gets to the right times G. Our code is right. This stuff we don't worry about, these accessory modes. We're timed, which we're going to be timed. We make sure the brake is on. If the brake is off, that's for doing specific things like isolating mitochondria or something from cells. And that means this thing takes 1,000 years to come down from speed. You want to put the brake on, okay? And you're ready to go. You hit start, push this down. And this usually blinks and you get terrified, but that's it just thinking. Once it goes and you can see it's starting to move, it's going to get close to, I wait till it gets to the speed. We're looking for 2,000 RPM. I feel the machine is not shaking, it's smooth as silk. I know everything's going well. Our 5 minutes has started. And once she gets to 2,000, this thing will automatically spin until we, it's slowing down right there. Okay, so I know we made it. We haven't, if the machine was doing something wrong or it was unbalanced, it would shake, but it would also stop itself. It would turn itself off on purpose so that you won't die.
Dang.
Okay. There we go, 2,000 RPM, and we're timing, so we'll come back in 5 minutes and see what these bottles look like. You can see our little RPM is coming down. It's winding down. We got down to time 0. So while that's coming down, it takes only a few seconds. We're going to get some ice, which is over in the little room here outside of our lab. From this point on, you do want to make sure that you keep these little guys in ice. I also have 2 fresh bobbles that are ready, some cheesecloth and a pair of scissors, because that's the next step. Let's go see how these things look. So, everything is good here. Everything's at 0, 10 degrees. As long as this is at 0, you can open everything. And actually, you'll hear the door click when it's ready to open. The actual little release is right here where it says door. You push on that, and then you can lift this up. Okay, and there we are. Now to undo this thing, I turn that to the right, the top piece. That kind of loosens the whole thing. Now that's loose. Now I grab this and I turn the rotor while I'm holding this big one and turning the rotor. That's the same thing, of course, as turning this to the clockwise to unloosen. Do this until it comes off. And there are our pieces. Now, got to be careful taking these out, because all we did was a low-speed centrifugation. That's getting rid of some gack and junk that's down in this pellet, a very loose pellet of dirt. And we're hoping that the bacteria are up on the other part. You can see this is barely a pellet at all. Can you see?
What in blue blazes?
There's barely a pellet there. It's down there, but all that cloudy stuff on the top is what we want. So very carefully remove these. Don't shake them around, whatever you do. Okay, let them go. When you're done using the centrifuge, if someone else is using it, that's one thing. And you guys can work together to balance several things at once. But when you're done, go ahead and turn the whole machine off, because it's refrigerated. You don't want to have it being refrigerating constantly, whatever. So make sure you turn the thing off when it's time, okay? So let's carefully bring these over. You may as well start practice what I preach, get in the habit of putting these in the ice bucket. Okay, very carefully. So now you've got these guys sitting here. You want to decant that liquid off so that the liquid goes into your 2 new bottles. Okay, so loosen these up. Wow, shouldn't have tightened it down so tight, Tinkerbell. And I don't know, I figure a piece about like that would work. Maybe double or over, like so. Stick it onto your new sodium. Grab your one that's sodium. Where'd she go? Well, that's P, not this one. Sodium. And very carefully decant this. You might hold on to the cheesecloth a little bit, but you want to very carefully decant it. You see it'll catch some dirt, but this is where all our bacteria are. And you just want to carefully do it. You don't want to just turn it over, go hell-bent for leather and hope for the best. As you can see, that pellet is very, very loose. Okay, that's good enough. And there is our dirt pellet. Okay, we're hoping most of the bacteria off of the dirt, and they're in this lovely stuff. There's my second one. And you can see here I spilled some on the bench. Not the end of the world. We don't need to be, we lose a little tiny bit of sample, it's not going to matter that much. Now it says in the directions, clean up your mess. No, it says decant through a couple layers of cheesecloth into new bottles. Now centrifuge at a high speed. So we want to do 15,000 times G. Or maybe we'll say 10. We'll try 10. 10,000 times G at 10 degrees C. So we're going to go find out what makes 10,000 times G. We'll switch that in our procedure. What makes 10,000 times G with this rotor?